Alright, I'm back on this again. I didn't totally give up on it. By now you probably saw the other video that I just made about the caps being too large. The one on this side, after about 10 minutes of using the solder sucker tool, the solder sucker station, oh, what a job. This one, I used it, but I couldn't pry it. I had to literally rip it out with a screwdriver, put a screwdriver underneath and ripped it out, because that's the only way you can do it. And I got it out, and surprisingly enough, the holes are clear. But if I couldn't get it out, I was going to leave them in there and just slap a cap across them. That's all. But I got it out. Now also, I did this off camera. And probably can't get a good view of this. But from here to here is 0 ohms. So I got continuity from here to here. And that's the negative. The negative of the caps face the transformer, which is this way. This is the positive. There's continuity here, continuity here. So your negative of one capacitor is here, the positive's here. Negative of the other capacitors here, and the positive's here. So essentially, these caps are in parallel. And upside down, of course, naturally, every time. Take my word for it, to 1,000 microfarad. So what I'm going to do, so I'm not worried about cosmetics. I'm going to stick a big-ass electrolytic here, 450 volt, 47 microfarad. It's going to stand up for here. Then I'm going to take, I think I got a 2200 microfarad or something like that, 20 volt, 25 volt, and I'm going to put them across this, because essentially these two caps that were in here are in parallel with the load anyways. So why should I fight to get something in here, which is, holes are open as you can see, but what a hell of a job. With the heat gun set on, for the solder sucker, 535 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm running for 10 minutes trying to get these out, and this one I had to just pry it out, just literally dig it out of there, but fortunately I was able to get enough solder off of the board that I was able to get it out. Otherwise, I'd either try to clip them off or leave the damn things in there and just parallel new ones over it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to slap a big-ass capacitor across here. And I don't know what these, it's a new, all my capacitors are new. So I'm going to put a big-ass one here, and I'm going to put a big-ass one over here. And, and we're going to solder the line cord onto here. So this will never go back into that case. It's in the shop. We'll just run a cord on it. And we'll get to use our switching power supply to run my dehumidifier until I can get one. Okay? So this is a bonus video for you. So I'm going to do all that off camera. I can work much, much better off camera. So we'll be back. I got to dig up the caps again. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to try to desolder it with the station. The problem I have is I have a 5X glasses here. I have these. Okay? The most powerful lens on it is 5X. Okay? And then I got this in front of it. Now I can't hold this and hold a desoldering station and pry up on the electrolytic, or I'm not an octopus, so I can't do that. there's just not enough magnification. So I can't see where the nozzle of the gun is going. So I'm having a hell of a time, and running that thing for 10 minutes trying to get these out, it's crazy. The guys on the YouTube, they make it look so easy. It's not easy. You know, don't get me started on this stuff. It's not. It's very, very hard. But I'm almost certain if I slap a big capacitor across here, because, like I say, these two capacitors, the other one's on the floor like everything else, that's what all ends up. Two 1,000 microfarads in parallel, because I ohmed it out with the output leads. So putting a big capacitor across here, probably if I can find a 4,000 or 5,000 microfarad, I'm going to put it on there as long as the voltage is at least 25 volts or more. So these are 16 volts, they're not going to hold up. And we'll replace this, and I don't think this needs to be replaced. On the video, I wasn't sure where the rectifier was. That might be it there, but doesn't seem to be marked anything on the board. But I'm not going to worry about that. I'll replace this. I'm going to do all this off camera. I got to get this out, so I got to put my desoldering station back on again. Got to wait for it to heat up to 554 degrees Fahrenheit. That's where I keep it set. Maybe it has to be set higher, I don't know. And I was told that it should keep this tip tinned to make it work better. So we'll let that heat up, and I'll get ready to remove that big cap. But you see that thing underneath there? I don't think that's the rectifier. I think that is the rectifier right there where my finger's pointing, right there. Okay? However, I don't want to ruin this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip. I'm not going to pull that out. We'll shut this down. I'm not going to pull that out. I'm going to cut it. Okay, this is a heck of a lot better, because you see this negative lead right here? It connects to that chip underneath. I don't think that's the rectifier, because if that was the rectifier, the output of that is coming off the negative, and that's wrong. This is the positive. Now, that could be the rectifier, because here, where my thumb is, I'm sorry, I can't use a pointer and hold a board too. So my fingers make the best pointers in the world. They were invented before pointers. That's a saying I got, because there are some people that do videos that don't like anybody to point. That's too bad. All right, so this could be a rectifier, but then that could be a rectifier. So I don't know. If in doubt, I'm going to be running this wide open, in other words, naked, on the bench. And I'm going to tack an electrolytic on here. Now, it's going to be just tacked on, because I don't like to waste my 450 volt electrolytic, because I use them in antique radios. So I can use it again after I replace this power supply. So I'm going to tack it on here. I'm going to tack a big ass capacitor across here, and solder some zip cord on here, and we'll see what it does. All right, so I'm going to do that, and I'll get back to you when I get all that done. Okay, negatives on the right, positives on the left. That's the original idea of what I was going to do. It's a good thing I left the stubs on the board, because I wouldn't have been able to mount the other one in there, because it was too big around. to go down any lower, so it needed to be on stilts, so to speak. Okay, now we got to make very sure at this end that I'm properly, okay, the negative on the two electrolytics that I removed over here, I think it's C4 and C3, face the transformer. That's to the left. So this here is the negative and this is the positive. But we're going to double check that with my meter, because when it comes to this small stuff, I don't trust myself. But it's very easy for me to make mistakes because I just don't see this stuff. So that's what we're going to do, and we'll come back, and we're going to dig up a cord, which I should have plenty of, so I can tack on into this area here my AC input. You can see one of them goes to the fuse right there, and the other one goes to, this could be an across the line cap, safety cap maybe, the yellow one, not sure. Then you got a toroid. No, that's on this side. Okay, got a toroid over here. Okay, this stuff is all confusing to me, so you have to bear with me. Give me vacuum tube stuff any day. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, I established that this is definitely the negative, which I knew, because the negative is over towards transformer, so the negative is right here and the positive's here, and these are in parallel. So we're going to put the negative here and the positive over here, and we have got a nice 3,300 microfarad at 50 volt electrolytic. So normally these two little ones here would be 2,000 microfarads because they're in parallel, 1,000 each at 16 volts. We're putting 3,000 across it, so that's 1,000 more on it. And we're going to tack that in too. These are new caps. And it says 405, no, 105C. Okay, so we should be good. We'll get that in there, and we're going to get a cord on this thing, and we're going to give it a try. Yep, everything I do is Rube Goldberg, but this is it. I got my test 120 volt lead, and it doesn't matter where the neutral is, because the pins on this are the same width. So let's give it a try. Before I do that, let me get my meter hooked up to this, and then we'll plug it in. And I'm going to get you on a tripod. Sorry about not being on a tripod, but I can't get the angle I need because the viewfinder's on the opposite side where I'm sitting. But I got 9.2 volts on that. .2 volts. And we're going to turn on the AM radio right now and see if there's any racket. Okay, of course, it's not loaded up. All there is a meter on it. So what we got to do now is to put the dehumidifier on it, and we're going to unhook it. We'll do that off camera. From the power supply it's now running on, and power supply is fairly warm, so I hate to run, there's a lot of heat coming out of here, so we're going to We're going to shut that off and give it a break here. Okay. I've got it hooked up. It's Rube Goldberg like everything else. This is the wire that goes to the dehumidifier. And we're going to do now. Okay, now I've got the power pack on. It's 9.2 volts, which is what it was putting out before. I'm going to put the radio on. Hopefully there's no music. There's nothing I can do. Copyright Nazis will get me. But I got to find out if there's static on this. First of all, I'm going to put the dehumidifier on. Because it only makes noise when the dehumidifier is on. If you plug the wall wart in without the dehumidifier being turned on, there's very little noise. Not much at all. So let's just see what we got here now. Yeah, we got a little bit of static. Let me turn this off. Listen to the static, and I'm going to turn this off.
Jack Scott. See if
Yep.
you remember it. It's called Leroy.
Okay, and I'll put it on again. Yep. It's better. Well, it's 8.7 volts with the dehumidifier on. Now, I guess there's probably no voltage regulation in here to speak of. Now, I don't know what the voltage is that's on this cap, and we can find out easy enough. We'll do that now. The battery indicator on the camera here is showing a little into the yellow here, so we're about half down. So I'll be right back. I want to take and move these meter leads from here and connect them to the electrolytic and then fire it back up again. And we're going to just see what voltage is across that big capacitor there, the 450 volt. Okay, I've got the meter, the red and the yellow lead. The red is the positive, the yellow happens to be the negative. We're only getting 158 volts. But the dehumidifier is not on yet, so it's not drawing any current. We're not monitoring the 9.2 out of here now. We disconnected from that. The only thing we're doing is we're feeding the dehumidifier its 9 volts. So we're going to go put that on now. Okay, that's on. Let's see what we're over here. Oh, 150 volts. So we really didn't need a 400 volt cap in there. We're getting under, so I can put I can drop a 250 volt in there, not a problem at all. I don't need no 450 volts in there. No way, not on this main cap here. Don't need it. Okay, now, as I showed earlier, we weren't getting 9 volts. We're getting 8 something out of here. So, obviously, there's no voltage regulator in here to mount anything, I guess. I wouldn't think so. If there isn't very much of one. So, all right, so it works. The dehumidifier works. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to solder a cord on this. I just haven't located a cord. I got a couple of them. I just got to find them, like everything else here. And we'll put a cord on this thing, and that'll be good enough for now. I'll be back. Talk about a Rube Goldberg. But that's the way I have to do things. I can't put everything in. Even if these capacitors were smaller and would fit in there, this is the way I have to do it. You don't realize until you're in my shoes how difficult it is. So right now, we're going to power it up. We got a cord on here. I found a non-polarized, well actually this is a polarized cord, but it doesn't matter with this thing. I'm going to put I got it in the isolation transformer because it's easier to plug in. And takes a few seconds there. It's 9.2 volts. Sorry, can't help it. I can't keep things steady. I'm holding the camera in my left hand now, and I got to go over and turn on the dehumidifier. Okay. As you see, the voltage dropped. I'm sorry about the camera shake. I cannot get a tripod up here. Too much stuff on the bench. Can't be done. So there we are. We're running at 8.7 volts. Calls for 9, but it's working. That's what it originally was designed for, so I guess this will be good enough until I get a replacement. The RFI is bad, but it's not as bad. I think it has a lot to do with increasing the capacity on the output, but also putting a good cap in, and you know, it says low ESR cap. Well, what is a good reading for an ESR cap to be low? You know, I didn't measure the ESR, but ESR is different for the capacity and the voltage. So 1,000 microfarad at 16 volts and 1,000 microfarad at 50 volts is going to have a different ESR. So that's a new cap, so there shouldn't be any problem with that. Let's go to the radio one more time here. All right, as you heard, we're still getting static on the radio. So the only thing I think would work with these things is put a 3-prong cord on here. This is my opinion now, and opinions are like bungholes. Everybody's got one. But my idea of doing something like this, put it in a Bud MIDI box, which I don't have. Put a 3-prong cord on it, ground the Bud MIDI box only. That'll be your shield. And put this whole thing in there, and I'll bet you will not get any RFI at all unless it comes through the line cord or the output. Much rather have a linear power supply. Much rather have it. But anyways, this will do, and I won't have to run my big power supply because it's needless to run that. So you're getting a little water in here, so you can see it down there. So that's gonna end it. You know, after I made that other video, I figured, what the heck? I got nothing to lose. Let's Rube Goldberg this thing and get it going, because this is the only way I can do this small stuff. You know, I have to make something 2 to 3 times the size in order to get it to work. And since they were paralleled on the 2 outputs, the 2 caps were paralleled and they were directly connected to the output leads, just like it is in one of my security cameras that I told you about, power supply. So why not just put a big fat cap on the outside? Doesn't have to be in here, unless you want to put it back into this case. This is going into the recycle. I don't need this anymore. Thanks for watching, folks. This will do me until I get something better. Fortunately, there's nothing much going on in the shop, so that's not going to be in the way just sitting there. I will clean up my bench, my tools and stuff, and make very sure that nothing's going to get shorted out. We'll take off the meter leads. We don't need the meter leads on here. And the wall wart, I mean the dehumidifier is taxoned onto here. This is all temporary, so I don't want to waste a good 47 microfarad 450 volt electrolytic, which you don't need in here. You didn't need a 400 volter in here. It's about 158 volts. So all you need in here to be in a safety margin is a 250 volt electrolytic. You don't need a 450. Not if you're only getting about 158 volts across it and 150 volts across it when I turned on the dehumidifier here. And you didn't need 50 volt electrolytic here. However, I figured to be safe, let's put it in there. All right. That's it, folks. Honest. I'm going to end this video, and that concludes this video.